Good afternoon on this Wednesday, March 26th. I'm Yumna Naufal, and these are today's headlines. Arab leaders laud the role of the Lebanese armed forces, stressing the importance to consolidate their capabilities to reach stability in the country. Rebels seized the village of Samra by the Turkish border in Syria, allowing them a small foothold by the Mediterranean for the first time since the uprising began. And new satellite images taken during the search for the missing passenger jet show 122 potential objects in one area of the Indian Ocean. Arab leaders have praised the role of the Lebanese armed forces, stressing the importance to consolidate their capabilities to reach stability in the country. The closing statement of the two-day Arab League summit held in Kuwait also vowed full support to the Lebanese state and called for the necessary political and economic support to preserve its security and stability and sovereignty on all territories. The Arab leaders expressed solidarity with the Lebanese Republic, calling for the implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1701 and for putting an end to Israeli violations. President Michel Sleiman addressed the summit on Tuesday, demanding Arab nations share the burden of Syrian refugees. He also urged them to encourage factions to keep the country at a distance from the ongoing turmoil in Syria. Maronite Patriarch Shaddai announces that he will not nominate a certain candidate for the presidency. Rai says in an interview that Lebanon needs a president who knows how to talk to the world and how to heal rifts. He called for selecting the new president in a conscious manner, underlining that he must have a character that can heal the domestic rifts and must enjoy Arab and international presence. He called on Speaker Nabih Berri to call for a parliamentary session to elect the new president as soon as possible and not to wait for a presidential vacuum. He also stated that he does not belong to neither the March 8 or 14 camps and that he engages in dialogue with everyone and the different viewpoints do not create animosities with anyone. He also added that he is with all the Lebanese people despite differences. In other local news, a three-member committee formed by Speaker Nabih Berri is scheduled to meet to come up with a roadmap for its talks with political parties on the presidential polls. Berri stated on Monday that the members of the committee would start consulting the parties on the polls in conjunction with talks that he would hold with the same sides to guarantee the appropriate atmosphere to hold the parliamentary session. President Michel Sleiman's six-year term ends this May, but the Constitution states that the Parliament should start meeting on March 25th to elect a new head of state. But no one yet has officially announced their candidacy for the top post. However, there are several contenders from both March 8 and 14 camps. And Development and Liberation Bloc MP Ali Khres states that the committee's mission is to seek the opinion of the different parties on the polls, including the qualities of the president they'd like to see at Babda Palace. Education Minister Ilyas Bousaab condemned the school beating incident that was reported yesterday, saying that such actions are forbidden at schools. He said during a press conference, quote, "We will take the harshest punishments against anyone beating a student." He also revealed that he will task the Central Inspection Bureau to follow up on school violence at schools throughout the country. Bousaab added that any beating should be reported to the Education General Directorate on the hotline 01-772-101 or by directly contacting his office. The principal of a South Lebanon, just to remind you, of a South Lebanon school has been sacked and given a lifelong ban from teaching after a video showing him canning students went viral on the internet. Video footage posted on the net showed Musa Dahir, the principal of the Zahrani branch of Maqasid School, canning a number of students for failing in their studies. Syrian rebels have seized control of a tourist site by the Turkish border that allowed them a small foothold by the Mediterranean for the first time since the uprising began. Amateur video posted online by activists shows a group of rebels by the sea in the seaside strip known as Samra, some sitting on rocks and raising their guns. The narrator of the video is heard saying this is the village of Samra under the rule of the rebels. Turkish government has allowed Syrian rebels to ship in aid, weapons and men through the border crossing of Samra. The capture of Samra comes after rebels severed one of the Assad's government's last links to the Turkish border by seizing the Kasab crossing in the province of Latakia. Activists say the rebels' mission of keeping their new gains in the province is difficult as the regime is so far in control of most of the high hills nearby, making opposition fighters in lower areas an easy target. New satellite images taken during the search for a missing passenger jet show 122 potential objects in one area of the Indian Ocean, according to Malaysia. The images from Airbus Defence and Space in France show the objects in a 400 square kilometer area of the ocean, according to Transport Minister Hishamuddin Hussein. Hishamuddin said the Airbus images were taken on Sunday, received on Tuesday, and immediately forwarded to the Australian agency coordinating the search. Hishamuddin also said that his government would be judged favorably by posterity over its much-questioned handling of the crisis over the missing flight, Malaysian Airlines MH370. U.S. law firm, meanwhile, said earlier on Wednesday that it had initiated what it called the first civil legal proceedings over the crash of the flight, and that it planned to pursue lawsuits seeking millions of dollars for aggrieved families. In other world news, the likely death toll from a devastating weekend landslide in Washington state has risen to 24 after rescue workers recovered 2 bodies and believed they had located 8 more, according to the local fire chief. As many as 176 people were still listed as missing late on Tuesday, 3 days after a rain-soaked hillslide collapsed on a rural residential area where it buried dozens of homes near the towns of Oso. The discovery of additional bodies came as crews searched in drizzling rain for survivors amid fading hopes that anyone could still be plucked alive from the massive pile of heavy muck and debris. Officials said they were hoping the number of missing would decline, as some of those listed might have been double counted or were slow to alert family and officials of their whereabouts. 8 people were injured. Coming up next, social media consultant Muhammad Hijazi is in our studios and he talks about education. Stay with us. Welcome back. Social media has reshaped lots of things, such as the dynamics of social communication and now even education. Coursera, or better known as the MOOC, known for a massive open online course, is a new platform for education, and it includes subjects offered by universities such as Stanford, Harvard, or UC Berkeley. It is free and accessible by anybody. And with us today to delve more and discuss this further is social media consultant Muhammad Hijazi. Welcome back.
Thank you, Yumna, for having me again.
Muhammad, can you tell me a little bit about the change that social media can bring today to teaching methods?
First of all, as we all know, the Lebanese education system is very traditional, and teachers and professors are still focusing on the content rather than teaching their students how to actually find the content themselves, or how to think better, because we all know that all of the information right now is accessible online for free, and you can find it anywhere that you want. So the system where teachers are maybe spoon-feeding information to their students is not really working anymore. So this is where these courses, websites such as Coursera come in, and they help anyone in the world for free to learn about anything that they want, and sometimes even get online degrees as well.
I know that social media is changing the world in a lot of ways. Do you think now that teachers have a more important role to play, because, as you said, education has become an accessible tool for anybody? So what can a teacher bring to a class in the age of social media?
First of all, teachers need to be themselves educated about using social media or using technology in their classroom. A lot of teachers in Lebanon still ban people to use mobile phones or laptops or tablets in their classrooms. And this is still a traditional approach that needs to be adjusted, or schools and principals need to introduce this this mentality to the teachers first. And then the teachers, they need to go into the classroom and help the students find the information that they need on their own, or teach them how to be more critical of what information they find online, because a lot of things might not be true, or sometimes they need to learn research tools to be able to find their information.
Right. Do you think that it is replacing teaching? Do you think there could be a threat there that we don't, I know you're also a prominent writer in Cloud 961, and in one of your editorial pieces, you talked about how a marketing instructor of yours made it mandatory for you to have smartphones and laptops in class. However, that's not the norm. Do you think that it's because they feel that that will replace or maybe deviate the attention from the actual professor?
It could be like that, and it could be that they're still afraid of technology. And I know a lot of professors at my university still do not know how to use technology really well. They just know the basics, and they don't really want to delve into that. So it's part of the like they're afraid of being replaced, and part of not knowing how to use the technology. And this is very crucial because we're in the 21st century, and this is education. Technological education has to be a part of education. It's in many countries, being technologically illiterate is equivalent to being illiterate totally. So this is something that we need to work on as education in our country.
You know, speaking about the future, and maybe this is because Lebanon is still catching up with the technological age right now, do you think that this method will be integrated in the curriculum of Lebanese schools or universities, or should it be?
Definitely it should, because as I said, education is no longer about memorizing which capitals of which countries or knowing history or anything like that, because education right now, all of that you can find on your phone. You can even talk to your phone and ask them these questions. Education is now more about being critical, about finding information on your own, about the willingness to learn on your own. So these tools such as Facebook, Twitter, Coursera, or any different type of technology that helps education is a must to be introduced in our education systems. And in Lebanon, some universities are trying to implement these, but they're finding maybe some resistance from students, some resistance from the professors, and for schools there's still very high resistance because the teachers are not themselves trained to use these technologies, especially in public schools, and the government isn't really helping a lot with technological advancements. Even the computer literacy courses in schools are still very basic and do not really cover what needs to be covered.
All right. I want to ask one last question here about the online collaborative, which is what you founded or you helped found, is actually having a conference on April 11th at the AUB Issam Faris Hall. It's about social media and the importance of it in all fields, whether it's political, entertainment, and news. Can you tell me a little bit about the goal of this conference and what we can expect from it?
The conference is called Social Media Changing Lives, and this is the second time we hold this conference. And what we're doing this year is that we're shedding light on different aspects of our lives that are being changed through social media. So we're going to be having talks from on a political panel, a news panel, entertainment, education, even the personal lives of bloggers and people who use social media. And we want to show the public that this is not just a toy or something that to have fun with, and that's it. There's a lot of benefits out of using social media, and the speakers and the panels at the event will be able to discuss this more with the audience.
Okay. Thank you for being with us today. For all inquiries about the online collaborative conference panel or any questions you may have, you can follow Mohammed Hijazi at MHIJAZI. We actually have the Twitter handle showing on our screen. And thank you for being with us, Mohammed. You're going to have to come back and tell us more about the social media awards, which we're all looking forward to, and then we can ask more questions as time goes on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
On that note, our bulletin ends for today. Let me remind you of our top stories. Arab leaders laud the role of the Lebanese armed forces, stressing the importance to consolidate their capabilities to reach stability in the country. Rebels seized the village of Samra by the Turkish border, allowing them a small foothold by the Mediterranean for the first time since the uprising began. And new satellite images taken during the search for a missing passenger jet, we're talking about the Malaysia Airlines flight, shows 122 potential objects in one area of the Indian Ocean. Those are your Wednesday headlines live on Future Television in Beirut. I'm Yumna Naufal, wishing you all a good night.